All right, next up we have Daniel-Constantin Mierla. Daniel is a co-founder at Kamailio. He is the core developer of the Civ Express before founding Kamailio in 2005. He worked as a consultant for Orange Romania and did research at the Fraunhofer Institute. He's going to be highlighting the powerful embedded scripting framework that's now available in Kamailio. The title of his talk is Versatile SIP Routing with Kamailio Embedded Scripting Languages. Give it up to a big KlueCon welcome to the founder of Kamailio and a generally great guy, Daniel-Constantin Mierla.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. I'm glad that you made it over the last night long party. So we are back to SIP and VoIP and real-time communication, the most funnier part of this conference. So yeah, Kamailio, it's an open source SIP server. Probably many of you are already familiar with, and we evolve over the time. As Travis said, we started back in 2001. So right now we play this kind of role in your RTC service, which is called SRM. And if you wonder what's that, it's practically your SIP reliability manager. So over the year, Kamailio evolved from this kind of cool kid in your platform, where you could do all this, you saw there like an ugly SIP header coming into your invite, Kamailio can strip it. You fancy adding a new header when forwarding, that's Kamailio that can do it. You want to block an invite, you can do it. It can do that job for you. And also, you decide to forward the call to A and then change your mind in 10 seconds and send it to B. Just let Kamailio know that, and he can do it. But what changed over the time? Back in the days, we were the geeks, nerds doing the telephony, and we could, when you wanted to play with Kamailio, you had to play its way, like, high five. He was the cool kid in the school, and you had to adjust of its own behavior, which was practically learning that scripting language. But now he has evolved. We started in 2001, now it's a manager. He's no longer a junior in the company. So out there are a lot of other tools. So this manager needs to interact with a team now, needs to collaborate, needs to push new products to the market in really short term. There's not like in the past for telephony, you had to design and then build a product, and from the time of requesting it till the time a vendor brought it back to you in the company probably was like a couple of years, and it was still fine. Now you want to integrate with the new cool NoSQL framework that is released tomorrow and will last till the next weekend, but you want to do it, and probably they released a library that's probably either in Python and maybe in Lua or JavaScript. So that's Kamailio these days. So besides our self-brewed scripting language, which we refer to it as native scripting language for Kamailio, now we can talk your language. You like Python, you can write your SIP routing logic in Python, Lua, JavaScript, Ruby. So these are the one that we have. The native one is still there, so practically it's your choice to go for the native one or you go for the new ones. So, seeing the difference is like believing, and practically there is not much difference if you are used with the old style of scripting language. Now is more or less, if you need to do like one-to-one translation, it's really easy to do it. But actually the power of this new interaction is putting external libraries. And actually I'm trying to speed up on the slides because at the end I want to do some demos so you can see it, like reusing some libraries out there and having some, let's say, in this case, some funny demos, not dangerous that much, but hopefully will reveal the power of this framework of ability to run your own or choose your own scripting language for SIB routing. So first, I'm focusing on some, let's say, things that you have to keep in mind when migrating from the old native scripting language to the new one, or even starting with the Python or Lua scripting language. There are some differences that you have to keep in mind. First, of course, is no longer that last year release. We started like 3 years ago, and we evolved. So we designed it and we tested it. It's running in production. Then we discovered that we can optimize here and there. A lot of people were concerned about performances. So they were kind of asking, OK, I know that maybe Python is slower or Lua expected to be slower and so on. So actually, I spent a lot of time in designing and then testing, even in live environments. And if you are familiar with Kamailio, we have this latency limits logging. And as I'm watching, OK, this is taking longer than the native one. Let's see how we can optimize. So I made it available also on our wiki. And practically last November, when I did the performance testing, I was really surprised that with the optimization we did meanwhile, from the moment we released the first version, now we are pretty much in the same level of performance, including with Python. I was really shocked to see that the latest version, it was the Debian Buster, which now is stable, but at that time was the testing for Debian, is way faster than the previous versions. And practically, just to give some numbers here, as you can see, the average, which is in microseconds, for the native, which is in the middle, and then the Lua, which is like my first choice of scripting language, if I go for something else than the native. And then the Python are in really more or less the same range. And you can see the maximum and minimum that we could count there actually could be better in one or another, not always the native. So maximum execution for native was higher than the maximum execution for an action for the Lua, for example. So overall, if you put all together, practically the same amount of SIP transaction, the same amount of SIP packets were routed in the expected time frame, so the time interval. There was no reason to actually promote one or another scripting language after my test. So it's your choice. If you are familiar with Python, go for it. If you are familiar with Lua, go for it. There is no big difference in terms of the API exported by Kamailio. Of course, if you import a Python library that is slow in interacting with an external system, is not something that it's our problem. So then, just to clarify it with the performances, practically, if you are more technical, I'm not trying to focus, but we build like a static table at compile time to map eventual functions that are going to be exposed by Kamailio modules when you start. And we populate that array at startup, and then during the runtime is practically an index lookup of a pointer compared with the native scripting language. So it's really, really fast. It's why you don't see any difference. And then behind any function you use in Python on Lua, and it's exposed by Kamailio as a KSR module, then practically it's the same C code. It's not a different implementation when you use like trelay in native scripting language, or you use KSR TM trelay, which would be the one in Lua or in Python. So besides this one index in lookup, then everything is the same C code. Actually, with the native scripting language, we do something before, like evaluation of the variables which are given as parameter. But of course, that's kind of done also in Lua Python when you build the string that you want to pass as a parameter. Otherwise, everything is going to be the same kind of C code. Another aspect that some people, that typically those that are used with the native scripting language are facing a bit of concern, or they are confused how they can deal with in scripting languages like Python, Lua are the variables from the native scripting language. All this $RU or RM, UA. Of course, as we don't control anymore the interpreter itself, so we don't build a Python interpreter, we just extend it with another library, we can't really push easy variables, new variables there that keep the same kind of pattern in all the scripting languages. So the decision is to go with functions. So you can see that's in Python. If you look at the Lua, looks similar. It's not a different approach for this handling the variables in all these scripting language, Lua, Python, JavaScript, and so on. So practically, as suggestion, as hints, it's try to use local variable in that scripting language, so you can fetch request URI, you can fetch some header, and then if you need to do more than one operation, it's better to store it locally in a local variable in that scripting language, and then use it in the function, because that scripting language is optimized to work with its own variables. Of course, we did also some optimization here. I'll have it closer to in one or two other slides. Another optimization that you can do is passing the variables you need or the ecosystem you need, the information from the SIP message to your scripting language through a JSON, and like Python Lua can easily convert this JSON into like hash table. And for this one, we have the SIP JSON module. And you can configure, I want to pass request URI, I want to pass from URI, call ID, user agent inside this JSON. And then in Lua, for example, will be a really basic script by using CJSON. So you serialize using KSR SIP-JSON, which is Kamailio module. It exposes this function SJ serialize. The first parameter there, this OB, will be some flags to tell how many of these variables you want. And then you'll get it in a variable, and practically then you use the Lua JSON decode, and you end up in a hash table, and then you use this KV with the RM key for getting whether it was invite or something else. What you have to keep in mind also, some of the modules which for the native scripting language expose variables to do operation with like adding new keys in a hash table or accessing them, they also expose dedicated function for the same operation. So practically, you should prefer the dedicated function instead of the generic get that variable value, because the get that variable value always like kind of parsing the parameter. The other one knows exactly, I want to work with that hash table, I want to set an integer value, and so on. So keep this in mind, because it's can improve a bit your it's not only the performance, because that's really small, it's done in memory. It's not actually the performance test I did, it was with these generic values. It was more for the, looking better integrated in the new scripting language. So then don't use this get dollar something, you say set me a key in the hash table with this value. And one you should have also in mind, if you use the generic function for getting variables, then try not to use dynamic names. So we have this $var, and then you can put your own name there in between parentheses. But try not to put like dynamic names there that you compute from the Lua or Python script, and then you set it and get it later, because practically that's like defining new variables. $var x, it's one variable, $var y, it's another one, and if you keep, say now I want to use $Daniel, which is the request URI username, and you have 1 million username, over the times, practically you end up defining like 1 million variables, and you should not. You should use some generic static like $var, and then will be just user and so on. Do we have some core parameters here to prevent you on abusing this dynamic definition of variables? Because for performance reason, we cache them and we try to look up by pointer, and then we start dropping as you exceed it. Another component that was added lately. I think I skip it over, but Chemix module is the one that gives functions that are equivalent of handling the common variable, like request URI username is very common. You use it always to see the target, like or from username, and you get them or get the source IP. There are functions there exposed in this module. So Chemix makes no sense if you use the native scripting language. This is a module dedicated only for scripting languages which rely on this Chemi framework. It's practically Chemi extensions. That's the reason to be named Chemix. The last quite Kamailio specific term will be these core keywords. We have this like method in native scripting language. We have the URI, we have myself, and so on. And those are defined in our scripting language, which again we wrote from scratch with Lexer and parser like Flex and Yak. And then we could define whatever we wanted. There is now in the scripting language like Lua, Python, there are functions exposed by this KSR module. So instead of testing if myself equal URI, like request URI, you have this KSR is myself RURI. So there are equivalent functions. Again, we don't plan to extend the interpreter of Python on Lua with new keywords. We extend it with a module to be more dynamic. Now to conclude this one and go into the demos a bit, if you are still concerned about performances, have in mind that other very popular and really high performance oriented applications are using scripting languages as well, specifically Lua. If you use Redis, practically they have an embedded Lua interpreter as well that you can do any kind of fancy stuff. And GNIX, they have their configuration in Lua scripting language. So we are not the only one. And of course, FreeSwitch is using Lua extensively if you want as well, but they have good support for it. So I will not be concerned about these performances. And then, of course, it's not only about performances. When you get into this scripting and you need to build a rather complex routing platform, or you have people that are familiar with the scripting language that we support, probably it's better in terms of maintenance, long-term development, and so on to go for it. The number of extensions in Lua Python is way bigger than we have as module. We have over 250 now modules, but if tomorrow is going to be a new framework you want to interact with, likely you'll have to write C code if you want to make it available in the native scripting language. But I could bet that at least Python would be one of the first releases, or Ruby like an API or like a library to interact with their API. So that's something that you can be sure is available in very short time. Then a lot of editors, a lot of debugging tools for these scripting languages, and quite important from community, like a request of features that happened in the past, you can reload these routing scripts without restarting Kamailio. So if you want to change a log message or you want to use new function from an already loaded module, then you can do it. It doesn't reload the modules. It's only about the routing logic part of it. So practically, I'm presenting here some really basic examples, and then I'll have some demos. I still have like 5 minutes, so I'm going to go quickly. This is like, you can easily replace some of Kamailio modules with scripting languages. Now, this is like replacement for the permission module, which is source IP checking. You can define a table there, like an array, and then you check the IP address with the function available, either exported by Kamailio or part of that scripting language. So as we have reload, it's no problem to keep adding some of them and reloading, which is really good. This is quite popular in like container environment because you try not to rely on backend like databases. So you put it there, you change it, you generate before restarting or starting the container, or you trigger a reload and it's just working. Then now, just for fun, because I was thinking what I should present as demo here, so you can see a bit the power and open your appetite for using these scripting languages. They are really like kind of funny, not dangerous. It's why I'm not going to be into the dangerous demos today. But we'll show the power of like reloading and printing some nice characters there. If you ever want to run like a really powerful web server tied to Kamailio, so run by Kamailio, this is all you need to do, and I'll show you that you can just have the Python HTTP server started by Kamailio and then serving internals of Kamailio, so you can see them on the web page. And if I still get time, we can even now play a little bit with Kamailio, like Minesweeper, by sending SIP options or doing HTTP requests. By importing an existing, I haven't wrote the Minesweeper logic. I just found it on GitHub, copy and paste, and just I made the interaction between SIP and this library via the scripting language. I will show it to you to see that's very simple. In this way, I expect that you understand how easy it is to extend Kamailio routing logic with this. So I'm going to start with the basic. Sorry, I'll have to mirror now. Let's see if I can mirror it easily. OK. So I'll start the basic, and I'm not sure if I have the audio, but if I, it's a bit harder. So practically, it's using an ASCII art library from Python to print in the syslog, but also you see down here, it's actually adding this header in the SIP message. This is one header. It's multi-line header. I hope you know that you can have that one. Again, it's just for fun to see that I just imported, and now I will show you the script. So the script, it's available here. The basic one is this one. Practically, I do this to add that. So I import. This is importing the art in Python, and then this is adding the header. I make it the art, and then for the first line, I put the header name, and then I add all the other with the white spaces at the beginning. And of course, if I want to change it, I can send here instead of hi, hello. I save it. Going back here. Let me trigger a reload. I should have it here somewhere. You could see it. And now if I send again a zipsack.
Hello, Kamailio.
And it's also using the like text-to-speech of the MacBook to play some audio. I put it here. So again, it's just for fun, and it's not something that probably you want to use in production unless you debug and you want to play audio for the log messages. Now the other, still 2 minutes. OK, so it feels like dangerous demo time. OK, basic, I run it. Now I run this web server from Python, and if I go to its port 80, I get the internal statistics of Kamailio. So it's really basic because, again, I wanted to show that how small is that script, SIP routing script run by Kamailio. So the web one, it's practically here. It's in a, oh, sorry. Getting the web server started, and then here it's practically getting the internal statistics of Kamailio and writing back to the browser in the stream. So again, it's really, this is the entire Python script to have a full web server, and of course you need to add here more execution of either Kamailio function or other function to build a proper web page. And the last one, the Minesweeper, well, I have it, this one. So if you can see the board, it's there, and practically the idea, I had it in my slide, it's you can set an option, and in the request URI, you have the command like explore and then the index. I have here, so explore, I don't know, two 2. And it's a bomb there. I don't know how easy you can see it here. You discover 1. And let's try 2, 3. And then let me find one that is gonna blow. That should be 2, 1. And it's crashed. So this is the library. Oops. And now again. Okay, I haven't put a command. Sorry, I didn't get this one. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. Just I want to get the no 5 no 0, 3, 0, 4. That's it.
You lost. What a pity.
Okay, so that's, again, I just imported, is nothing. That's all from my side. So practically, if you want to discuss more about this one, you can find me around. I have 2 t-shirts that probably I'll give it for those people asking for questions, which I see I don't really have much, maybe 1 for a t-shirt, and then I can get other question offline.
First of all, big round of applause for Daniel. All right, do we have any questions for Daniel?
For a t-shirt, at least.
He's bribing for questions. It was a great talk. Did he answer all? We have a question
Julian.
over there. Go ahead.
Did you include some default script that could be useful or normal Kamailio stuff? Is there some example? I haven't looked.
There is a standard, like we have this default Kamailio config file, and then we translate it in Lua, Python, and so on. So if you look in MISC examples, Kemi, you have these variants for Ruby, Python, and so on, which is like the default config file we have for Kamailio, and from there you start extending. Okay, Julian, you got the t-shirt, and I want to keep longer because I see I went a bit over the time with that Minesweeper crash of the library, but I hope you enjoy it and you saw the powerful of this scripting language by importing external stuff to make crazy things. These are just stupid examples, but in your production could be interaction with other systems. Thank you, everyone, and I will be here all the other days to take more on this question. Thank you.